and how did you get in here?
I'm a locksmith. And I'm a locksmith.
And I am a locksmith, the famous words by Mr. Frank Drebin in Police Squad. And why do I set that up? Because I've got a man who was hoping a month ago that the locksmith would be open for New York City to give keys to Zach Miller. I can't believe it's been a month ago already, to the city at the Hometown Heroes Parade. But I guess the locksmith was locked down still, huh?
Oh, yeah, God forbid a locksmith is an essential worker. So, unfortunately, no keys to the city from that event, which I'm with you. I can't believe that was a month ago. That's incredible.
But I do want to bring a finality to that before I get into the horrible situation Mike Gallagher is going through. I mean, this is about adapting. So I'm going to have the fun part of adapting now, and then we'll get into the serious part in a minute. But, Zach, you got to tell us about this finality. New York Truck Stop Radio's own Zach Miller was not only on the Canyon of Heroes. You got a certificate? Tell us what happened.
So here's what happened. So, as you're going down the Canyon of Heroes and it's amazing and you're on your float and then, you go past City Hall and I do have to remind everybody who didn't listen to the show that Mayor de Blasio did say #thank a trucker. He saw my sign and he pointed to it. So that happened, and I will tell everybody that happened for the rest of my life. So, but right after that, Alex, we make that turn and the parade is done. We get off the float, and then city workers gave out kind of like goodie bags or grab bags, if you will, for people who were participating in the parade. And there was a bottle of water, and there was a couple of snacks, and there was this certificate. And there was a certificate by the mayor that said, "Thank you, essential workers, for all you did during the COVID-19 pandemic." And, it had his signature and it had the seal of the city. And that was pretty cool. Like you said, I really was hoping for that key to the city. I knew it wasn't going to happen, but still, you got to keep up the hope. You got to have that optimism. But it was really cool to open that bag and see this certificate.
Well, Zach, I got to say, I know that because you don't drive a truck, you don't belong on the ground. But I saw this on your show that you guys do so much for truckers that I feel like you are an essential worker. So I hope that finally hits home for you now.
Thank you. Yeah, it does. And then in terms of the finality to it, so I went to my parents' house that weekend, I believe it was. And then my parents were away and they had come back and, they asked me how the parade was. And I told them, I said, it was amazing. It was so great to see New Yorkers turn out. It was a very hot day, but still we made it work. And I said, I said to them what I said to you, like, oh, I was hoping for that key to the city, but they didn't do it. They gave out certificates instead. And my mom said, really? I said, yeah, they gave out some, little certificate and that's what it said. She said, okay. What are you going to do with it? I'm like, I don't know. It's in my apartment. It's just kind of sitting there. She's like, bring it to me. I want to see it. I'm like, all right, Ma, whatever. So I bring it to my mom and she takes it and I don't really think of it. And then I come back to the house about 2 weeks later. So this was earlier this week. This was Monday, I believe. And she hands me this like package, if you will. And I'm like, what is this? She's like, okay, just open it. And I open it, and she got the certificate framed for me. This really nice framing place by her house that she got it done.
Moms know best, don't they, Zach?
Moms really do, exactly. So to your point, Alex, I'll hang it on my wall with some of my other achievements. And yeah, when I wake up every morning and I look at that, I agree with you. I think, yes, I will. I certainly feel the pride in being part of such a vital industry. And that's important too. You wake up every day, sometimes you have good days, you have bad days. We all know that, but it's really important to wake up and feel some pride in what you do and to try and attack your day with pride and with a positive outlook. And I think that looking at that frame certificate is going to help with that.
Well, I kind of attacked this early on today. I'm like, I'm going to get Zach on, and here we are. So to your point, we're all working on our things here. All right, one last thing, because I got to know now. What was your favorite certificate degree before getting this?
So that is a great question. I do have to give you a couple of answers. There's going to be a couple here because I've been very fortunate to have received multiple honors. In college, I was part of the American Advertising Federation, their college competition, their case study. And my junior year in college, we actually won our region. We didn't win the whole championship, but we won our region, the Northeast region, which was amazing. So I have that certificate framed. That's actually still in my parents' house, but I'm super proud of that. And then the thing I'm most proud of was from the Trucking Association of New York. A couple of years ago, I received the President's Award. So every year at the annual conference, the president gives out an award or multiple to one or multiple recipients of people who've gone above and beyond service to the association for that year. And I won it in 2017, and that was an incredible honor. And I have that plaque framed. Well, it's a plaque, so I have it hanging in my apartment, and I'm super proud of that. So I think those two, the award from college, and then again in the pros, those would be my two favorite.
And to full circle that, I mean, New York Trucking Association got you on the float. So how's that for connectivity, right?
Exactly. So I'll tell you, Alex, and I haven't hung it up yet, but I'll tell you, I'll have the certificate and I'll have the President's Award, and then I also received another honor from TANI, the Trucking Association of New York. I was part of one of their leadership classes, so I have a little plaque from that. So it's going to be 3 sort of professional awards / commendations, all from trucking. So yeah, that'll be on my wall. And yeah, I'm super proud of it. And I think you're right. Moms know. I'm pretty sure that's why my mom did it, because she wanted me to have them all together. And I'm really glad she did. And I'm really excited to wake up in the morning and look at all of that and just know that you're on the pathway to something good. You work hard. People appreciate your hard work, and you got to look on the bright side. And to pardon the cliche, keep on trucking.
All right, I don't know if we can talk about it, but I guess someone nominated me for 40 Under 40 on New York City and State. I'm very flattered by that. What's that about? I didn't even get it, but thank you. I'm sure there are a lot of nominations. I don't know how they whittle it down, but I'm a big fan of nominating friends and colleagues to honors like that when I think it's warranted. And I don't remember the exact wording for this one, but it was definitely media was a part of it. So like 40 and 40 in media, and I just think that it's a couple of things. First of all, just everything you're doing with your podcasting and your presence and your attitude, your mentality, your dose of positivity. I think it's so important now more than ever, probably. And you're such a great spokesperson for it. You really inspire so many people who listen to you and really appreciate your platform. So I saw that and I said, well, everything that Alex has been doing during COVID, so many people could have they get a bad hand in life and they'll just throw in the towel, or, they'll have a little adversity and then they can't get through it. And you always do. And you always do it with a smile. So I thought, who better as a rising star, as a 40 under 40 than you, Alex Garrett. But I will also say to your listeners, when COVID hit, and the radio station wasn't really sure what was going on, our show and all these shows were sort of in flux, Alex took it upon himself to produce all these shows. No one asked him to do it. He just did it. He did it because credit also goes to Matt Borzi. He put a lot of it together too. I want to give credit where credit's due.
Fair. But you know what? On my end, it was all you, and I was the one submitting the nomination. So there you go.
Thank you, Zach. That means the world. And I don't want to let this go by. I hope you put a picture of the certificate on NewYorkTrucksUp.com. You got to do that. It's almost fitting to do that.
Oh, I will. I'm waiting till I hang it up on the wall and I have them all together. But I certainly will.
All right. Well, on a fun note, today's Stella Sunday. I hope you enjoy it. But one last question for you. Did the City of New York's adaptation from keys to certificates make you happy? Like, did they do well at adapting? Let me ask you that.
I think given the circumstances, given just everything that's been going on, not to mention the amount of people who participated in that parade, yes, I think keys would have been pretty impractical in that scenario, and certificates was the right way to go for that. But I will say this, Alex, I'm getting my key to the city one of these days. It'll happen one of these days.
Just manage the Mets. Come on. You can do that.
I probably could do better than Rojas at this point, yes.
Oh, man, it's not fun. But that's another conversation for another day. Zach, thanks for joining me on really short notice. This has been great. And come back. I love having you on this podcast.
I love coming on. Anytime, buddy.
All right, well, that was Zach Miller, NewYorkTruckStop.com, of course, New York Truck Stop Radio and such. And so moving on here on Adapting with Alex Garrett, there is some news I want to talk to you about. Fellow colleague at AM 970 The Answer, one of our national hosts who does 9 to 12, 10 to 1 on AM 970 The Answer. His son Trevor Gallagher got into a horrible auto accident which left him hospitalized, and when Mike Gallagher was telling me telling the story on the air of the improvements since the accident of his son Trevor, I believe Trevor's in his 40 or so, I felt this podcast, Adapting with Alex Garrett, like this would be a story to talk about. Because imagine you're healthy, you're driving around, and all of a sudden you have to adapt to a power wheelchair. And I can't imagine what Trevor Gallagher is going through. I can't imagine what Mike Gallagher is going through. But Mike, this podcast is praying for you and Trevor and Joey Hudson. Mike, this podcast is really inspired by the way you've adapted to this situation to help him get a power wheelchair, to help him move around in this time of horror and recovery at the same time, and hopefully prayerfully rehabilitation. But I just want to dedicate a couple minutes to this because Mike Gallagher, I don't really bring his name much. You've heard Frank Morano and Kevin McCullough, but Mike Gallagher had, when I got hired 8 years ago, basically helped take me under his wing. You might ask, but how? Well, in November of 2013, when there were election results coming in, Mike actually threw it to me to talk about an election result. I think it was the one in Virginia. And I'll never forget how open and how inclusive he was. And I was extremely thankful for that. So, Mike, I want to dedicate a minute here to just pray for you and pray for Trevor, and that you guys are adapting in so fast that you are the hope of why this podcast exists. You give hope to others that have trouble adapting daily. And I have said before, I believe people are adapting to situations almost every minute of the day. Every minute of the day, someone's adapting to something. It could be an amputation. It could be becoming wheelchair bound. It could be some mental adaptation. But everybody's adapting. But when it hits your family at 970, you have to dote on them for being so strong through this. An auto accident changing the lives of Mike Gallagher's family, of his son Trevor. And, I can't imagine it, but I can imagine Mike staying very positive. And by the way, if you want a website for Mike Gallagher, it's finalityonline.com. You can probably drop him a line there or give him a call or text of well wishes. I know he could probably use it right now. You can call him or text him at 800-655-MIKE or email him at mikeonline.com. Shoot him your best wishes. He's been talking about Trevor a lot over the week, obviously. But when I heard that they weren't just going to lay down in a hospital and let Trevor just lay there, but he'd get him a power wheelchair, I said, that is adapting. That is why that is why I enjoy covering adapting stories. Because of the hope behind it. Because of the drive to not settle for the current circumstance, but adapt to it. To work around the big situation for the better. And I pray, and this audience prays, and I encourage this audience to pray, that Trevor Gallagher becomes healthier, hopefully able to walk, we don't know. But Mike Gallagher, I'm thinking about you on this podcast and how you are adapting as a dad to this and how you're taking a lead on this in a very difficult time. And I think your story of helping your son adapt is the crux of this podcast. Because as I said before, being born with just one leg, that was God's gift. There are many that have to deal with what life, and probably God's plan in a way, but life throws at them. And those stories are inspirational. When you lose a leg by amputation and have to adapt, that is inspiring to me. When you have to adapt to a new wheelchair, that is inspiring. When you have to adapt to being laid off and trying to find things, when you adapt to anything thrown your way and do it well, Zach said that this pandemic did help me adapt my podcast. And I kind of did that for survival. Because if I didn't do this, I don't know how in the fields I would be every day. Radio Hope, Mike Myers, Ed Delgado, Zach Miller, all of those that joined during this pandemic, Kenny Albert, you've all helped this podcast adapt and become bigger. But adapt to a pandemic that I didn't know if we'd see the end of. And I know we aren't out of it yet, but you know what? We're getting there. We will get there. But that's another discussion for another day. I just want to dedicate some time to Mike, to Trevor, to the Gallagher family. And tell them you're in my thoughts and prayers. You're in our thoughts and prayers of this podcast. And it is an inspiration how you both and how the family has rallied around Trevor and has switched things around to get him out of that hospital bed and mobile again. Being mobile is the first step. I've talked about Ben Hogan before. He couldn't stand for months after his car crash. Yet he did what he had to. He practiced by just standing up for 1 second. Then he started to walk more. Then he became a golfer again. And he killed it on the tour. But he had to adapt. And he did it to become a championship caliber golfer again. Those are the types of stories I want to talk about. And if you have any, Alex at alexgnyc.com. Alex at alexgnyc.com. Zach Miller, thanks for joining. I know the adaptation was a little funny there, but that certificate is beautiful. Congratulations. Kudos to Mom to put that in a frame for you as well. And my mom actually did that with my Queens College degree. So I feel some simpatico there, if you will. And Mike, thanks for taking me under your wing very early on and for continuing to grow this connection And now this connection wants to say, God bless you and your family, as Trevor is on the mend. Always adapting. At Alex Garrett. We'll talk to you soon.